This week, President Donald Trump shook the foundations of global trade, announcing sweeping new tariff threats. Before a crowd of supporters, he targeted India, China, and Russia, accusing them of exploiting the US and vowing to rewrite the rules of global commerce. The most pointed warning was for India, which Trump accused of profiting from the Ukraine conflict by buying Russian oil, undermining Western sanctions. This marked a dramatic escalation, putting a key US partner in the crosshairs. Trump's speech painted a world where America had been taken advantage of for too long, promising to end unfair trade practices and imbalance. His warnings to China focused on tech ambitions and support for Russia. To Russia, a blunt ultimatum tied to Ukraine. Global markets braced for impact as governments scrambled to respond, realizing the era of predictable trade was over. Trump promised swift action, with new measures to be announced within 24 hours. The world now faced a new reality. US trade policy could shift overnight, upending decades of economic stability. The Trump administration wasted no time, announcing a sweeping 25% tariff on all Indian imports, effective August 7, 2025. Trump called it reciprocal, matching India's tariffs on US goods and aiming to force a level playing field. The move was justified by India's continued purchase and alleged resale of Russian oil, which the White House saw as undermining sanctions. This tariff marks a sharp break from years of growing US-India ties, threatening to reverse progress overnight. Indian exports from textiles to machinery now face a sudden, severe challenge. The blunt, across-the-board measure introduces unpredictability, making long-term business planning nearly impossible. Both countries were left stunned by the timing and severity, as Indian producers scrambled for new markets. For American consumers, higher prices are likely. For Indian businesses, a painful reassessment of their US reliance has begun. The message was clear: the US would use economic leverage, even against friends, to enforce its foreign policy. India's response was swift and defiant. The Ministry of External Affairs condemned the tariffs as unjustified and unreasonable, defending India's right to set its own economic and foreign policy. India argued its Russian oil imports were a necessity, not a choice. Traditional suppliers had diverted oil to Europe, leaving India to secure energy for its 1.4 billion citizens. Ironically, this diversion was encouraged by the US to help Europe, forcing India's hand. India also pointed out US hypocrisy. America and other Western nations still trade with Russia, yet India is singled out. Data showed the US did $3.5 billion in trade with Russia in 2023, even after the Ukraine invasion. India framed the tariffs as selective punishment for its independent foreign policy, not a principled stand. This strong rebuttal signaled a prolonged standoff, with India rallying international support and exposing double standards. Both sides dug in, making a quick resolution unlikely. The stage was set for a tough economic and diplomatic fight. Not everyone in Washington backed Trump's hardline approach. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, a leading Republican voice, publicly criticized the tariffs on India. She argued it was a mistake to target a key Democratic ally while giving China, a top buyer of Russian and Iranian oil, a 90-day tariff pause. Haley warned that alienating India could undermine US efforts to counter China's influence in Asia. Her critique resonated with Republicans who see India as vital for balancing China's power. The debate revealed deep divisions within the party over how to handle complex alliances. Haley's dissent forced the administration to defend its strategy, not just to opponents, but to its own ranks. The internal rift could shape future policy, as the costs of alienating India become clearer. Trump's trade offensive wasn't limited to India, it swept across the globe. A new tiered tariff system hit dozens of countries, creating uncertainty from Europe to South America. The EU faced a flat 15% tariff, prompting negotiations and suspended countermeasures. Canada was hit with 35%, Brazil with 50%, while Mexico got a 90-day reprieve. Asian economies like Pakistan, Vietnam, and Bangladesh faced 15-20% tariffs, threatening their export-driven growth. The de minimis rule was scrapped, meaning even small online imports now face duties, hurting small businesses and consumers. The US shifted from multilateral deals to unilateral tariffs, aiming to force bilateral negotiations where it held the upper hand. But this approach angered allies, destabilized markets, and risked a global cycle of retaliation. American businesses and consumers now faced higher costs and greater uncertainty. The world's trading system was being fundamentally reshaped by force, not consensus. Trump reserved his most dramatic threats for China and Russia. For Russia, he issued an ultimatum: reach a Ukraine ceasefire by August 8, 2025, or face tariffs up to 100% on oil and exports, a massive escalation. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff was dispatched to Moscow, using the threat of crippling tariffs as leverage for peace. The strategy used economic power as a direct instrument of war and diplomacy. With China, the focus was on tech dominance, especially semiconductors. The U.S. moved to restrict China's access to advanced chips, while China summoned Nvidia over security concerns, signaling pushback. Trump threatened future tariffs of 150–250% on Chinese pharmaceuticals and semiconductors, creating huge uncertainty for global supply chains. These moves targeted what the administration saw as the greatest long-term threats to U.S. security. But the risks were high. Any miscalculation could escalate into broader economic or even military conflict. The impact of these tariffs is already rippling through industries worldwide. Japanese automakers like Honda and Mazda reported massive profit hits from new U.S. auto tariffs. Starbucks faces a 50% tariff on Brazilian coffee beans, likely raising prices for American consumers. Swiss watches and UK spirits are also hit, with luxury and everyday goods alike becoming more expensive. India's role as the top seaborne buyer of Russian oil is at the heart of its dispute with the U.S., a vital energy source for India, a revenue stream for Russia. The 25% tariff on Indian goods is meant to sever this link, but at the cost of billions in U.S.-India trade. Companies are rethinking supply chains, absorbing costs, or moving production, an expensive process known as decoupling. Decades of globalization are being reversed, with higher prices and less variety for consumers. The weaponization of trade is fragmenting the global economy, and the full consequences are only beginning to emerge. International business now faces a new era of unpredictability. Beyond politics and profits, these trade wars hit ordinary people hardest. In India, Prime Minister Modi urged citizens to buy local to weather the economic storm. Small businesses that built ties with U.S. buyers now face closures and job losses as tariffs bite. For many families, the uncertainty is devastating. Future investments and hiring are on hold. In the U.S., consumers will see higher prices on everything from clothes to coffee, as tariffs act like a hidden tax. The end of the de minimis rule means even small online purchases from abroad will cost more. The trade war strains diplomatic ties, making cooperation on global issues harder. Businesses are forced into tough choices, leading to layoffs and disruption. Ultimately, it's workers, business owners, and families who bear the brunt of these geopolitical battles. As leaders debate policy, millions navigate the real-world fallout of a new, uncertain economic era.